Hi, I'm Allison Howard. This yoga practice is going to be a quick hamstring lengthening sequence. All you need in terms of props are a couple of blocks, and then also if you have a strap, that can be really helpful. If you don't have a strap, a scarf or a belt can work as long as it's long enough to hook around one foot and to hold it in the hand. So grab those props and join me on your mat. So we will begin this class on our backs. Make sure you have your strap somewhere near you and make sure you have it sort of doubled up so that you have a little loop big enough to put your feet through. You can bring it over to the side of the mat and just push it off to the side as you lay down onto your back. You can extend the legs long here, or if it feels more comfortable to tent them up to the sky, you're welcome to do that as well. Hands can come onto the torso, rest on the belly or on the hip points. Or you're also welcome to allow the hands to rest beside the hips on either side. And we'll start to notice how we feel here on the mat for this practice. Maybe this is the first practice you've done in a while, or maybe you practice really regularly. Either way, this practice is its own. Notice the breath as it fills the torso, lifting the ribs, expanding out the belly. And notice how the belly button falls back toward the spine as you exhale. Notice how ribs soften down. These waves of sensation as the breath enters and leaves. Bring your tailbone lengthen onto the mat. So you begin to flatten out the low back onto the mat, the sacrum. And lift each leg one at a time and lengthen it out of its socket toward the top of the mat. Breathe here, space long into the back body. And if it feels okay for you, you might blink your eyes open. Take in your surroundings. And look over and find your strap. We'll begin by hooking the left foot into the strap. You can tent your right knee up to the sky just to get us started, get us grounded in and positioned on our mat. And extend the left heel up toward the sky. Make the heel of the left foot the farthest point away from you in this pose. And you can clasp the strap with your left hand. And then if this feels okay, you might invite the right foot to lengthen toward the top edge of the mat. And notice how that changes the alignment in the pelvis. Press the heel away and bring length into the back of the leg. Take an inhale, press the heel away, and exhale, find length. Inhale, press, activating the quad, the front of the thigh. And exhale, find length. Breathe and notice the space around the back of the left thigh. And from here, you might invite the left foot to take small circles in space above the head, or above the hips, I should say. And switch those circles to the opposite direction, exploring the space in the back of the leg as the left heel paints circles on the top of the ceiling. And find stillness here. And you can bring your right foot up and swap out the hook onto your right foot. We've just done a really quick swap of the strap onto the right foot. And bring your left foot down and tent the knee up to the sky. Take your time and find the strap onto the ball mound of your right foot. So you might have to adjust it just a little bit and bring the hook of the strap into your right hand. Press the right heel away from you. And if it feels okay, you might like to lengthen the left heel toward the top edge of the mat, noticing that for me in particular, this hamstring is quite tight. So the left and right sides might be very different from one another. Breathe space. And depending on your anatomy, you may feel this stretch more at the place where the hamstring attaches or where it originates, or in the belly of the hamstring, right in the middle of the back of the leg. You can invite gentle circles, exploring the different parts of the hamstring that respond to different angles of movement. Pressing the heel away from the body the whole time. And swapping out the direction of those circles. And then lowering the leg all the way down. Release the strap and bring it off to the side. Hug your knees into your chest and then rock and roll on your spine all the way up to sit. Bring the soles of the feet in toward one another. We're going to set up for Baddha Konasana pose, sometimes called butterfly pose. Bring the soles of the feet toward one another. Bring your hands down to clasp the feet and open them out. Engage the glutes strongly and press the knees down toward the mat. Inhale, lift up through the crown of the head and open through the collarbones. And then fold forward any amount, either rounding the spine or keeping the back flat and pressing the elbows into the inner thighs. Breathing here. This is really more of an inner thigh stretch in this pose than a hamstring stretch. But many of these muscles support similar actions in the legs and the hips and the knees. Take an inhale, press yourself back up to a seat, bring the knees in toward one another, and then extend the legs long out in front of you. We'll come to Paschimottanasana. So you might remove the flesh from your sitting bones, and you can press into the heels of your hands and lift up, and then find a position of your pelvis so that the bowl of the pelvis spills forward in space. It allows a little bit more length in the hamstrings. Now, if your hamstrings are quite tight, you might like to sit up onto a block or a pillow or the edge of a blanket. From here, we're going to strongly flex our feet, and our toes are going to tent back toward our face. This just brings a little bit more action into the fronts of the legs, which brings a sort of active stretch into the backs of the legs. Take an inhale, lift the arms up and overhead, and then exhale, drape forward, and allow your spine to round. Your hands can come to your shins. You might interlace the 2 front fingers around your big toes or clasp the outsides of your feet. Even just allowing your hands to rest on the mat is totally fine. What I don't want you to do is to pull and jerk yourself into this forward fold. In particular, if your hamstrings are tight, if you spend a lot of time sitting or running or biking, they might be tight. And if you just jerk yourself into that pose, you might be able to get a little bit closer towards your knees, but the low back might not like it very much. So just allow yourself to soften for another breath or two here. And on your next inhale, bring your hands down to the mat and walk yourself back up to a long, straight spine. Again, strongly engage the fronts of the legs here, and your hands come out on either side of the hips. Lift up through the crown of the head and engage the fronts and backs of the legs so strongly that perhaps the heels of the legs, the heels of the feet lift up and off of the mat. This looks like such a simple pose, staff pose, but it is always surprising how much work it actually is. Nice. And release that. Hug the knees into the chest. Crisscross the feet underneath the hips. Bring your hands down to the mat. Step it back. Downward facing dog. In downward facing dog, I really want you to pedal out the heels here. So press your right heel down into the mat and lift your left heel up off of the mat, bending into the left knee generously. Hold that for just a few seconds, a few breaths, and then we'll swap it out to the other side, bending the right knee, straightening the left. Just as much as feels nice and comfortable, and also lifting the hips as we bend and flex. Alternating from one side to the other. Beautiful. On your next inhale, lift your right heel up to the sky. Exhale, plant the foot in between the hands. Lower your left knee down to the mat. And place your blocks on either side of your mat here. Take an inhale, rise up, Anjaneyasana. Lengthen tailbone down. And you can take a nice wide stance here with the feet and press your hips forward in space. Exhale, hands come down to the blocks, grab onto them, and then press your hips back over your left knee. You're going to straighten as much as is comfortable into the right knee. Flex your right toes back towards your face. Plug your right femur bone into its socket. Take an inhale, lift the back of the heart space, and exhale, fold forward over that extended right leg. Breathe here and notice sensation. Where is sensation loudest in the right leg? Inhale, back of the heart space guides you back up. Come forward and down, hands frame off the right foot. Step the right foot back, downward facing dog. Inhale, lift the left heel. Exhale, place it in between the hands, lower your right knee down. Inhale, Anjaneyasana, low lunge. Tailbone lengthens down, hips press forward. Exhale, hands come down to your blocks. Bring them on either side of the hips here, right underneath the shoulders, in fact, and straighten into your left knee. Flex your left toes back toward your face. Take an inhale and exhale, fold forward toward the extended left leg. Pull, sort of an action of pulling without actually moving your left heel, as if you were pulling your left heel back toward your face here. Activating the back of the left leg. Feel and notice. Inhale, lifts you back up. Bring the left sole of the foot back down to the mat. Frame off the left foot. Step it back. Downward facing dog. Inhale, lift your heels. Exhale, bend into your knees. Look to the top of the mat and step, hop, or walk to the top of your mat. Halfway lift. Exhale, fold. Inhale, reach all the way up to stand. Exhale, hands to heart center. Inhale, arms reach up. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, hands come down to the mat. Step it back and flow through your chaturanga. Upward facing dog. Downward facing dog. Take an inhale, lift your right heel to the sky. Exhale, plant the foot in between the hands, ground down your back heel, open it out, warrior two. Feel the action as if you were pulling your heels in toward one another without making them move. Take a long inhale. Straighten into the right thigh. Bring your right fingertips forward and down. Left fingertips up to the sky. Trikonasana. Triangle pose. Gaze can be down toward your lower hand, straight ahead, or up toward the hand. Up at the ceiling. Bend into your right thigh. Come back up. Warrior two. Straighten into the left and right thighs. Your heels come out, your toes angle in. Take an inhale, reach the arms up to the rafters. Exhale, bend forward. Hands come down to the mat. Prasarita Padottanasana. You can walk your feet wide. You can come down onto your forearms. Feeling the stretch in the back side of the body. From here, bring your hands back underneath your shoulders. Come onto bringing weight around on your hands over into your left. Your right toes shine up toward the rafters. For Skandasana, surfer's lunge. Your right toes up toward the rafters for Skandasana, surfer's lunge. Walk your hands around and bring them to the other side. Left toes lifting up to the sky for the other side. Hands come back up through center. Walk your hands around toward the top of your mat. Frame off the right foot with your hands and go through your flow. Downward facing dog. Inhale, lift your left heel. Exhale, plant the foot in between the hands. Ground down the back heel. Warrior two. Again, feel that action of scrubbing the left and right heels in toward one another, even as they stay exactly where they are. Inhale, straighten into the left thigh. Bring your left fingertips forward and down. Trikonasana, triangle pose. Notice sensation in the back of the left thigh. Press your hips forward in space. Inhale, come all the way back up. Exhale, frame off the left foot with the hands and go through your flow. Upward facing dog, downward facing dog. Take an inhale, lift your right heel. Exhale, plant the foot in between the hands. Inhale, come up, crescent lunge. Fingertips reach to the sky. Again, we can get this action, this feeling that the right foot is pulling back in space and the left toes are pulling forward, even as they don't move. And notice how that brings activation to the hamstrings. Inhaling here. Exhale, hands come down to the hips. Step the left foot forward about a foot. Straighten into your right thigh. You can leave your hands on your hips, clasp them behind your back, or find any other arm position that you might like. Take an inhale, lift your chest. Exhale, fold forward. Hands can come down to the ground or to blocks. Inhale, lift up halfway, and exhale, fold. Breathe space into the back of the right leg. From here, take an inhale, step your left toes back toward the back edge of the mat again. Place your blocks off to the side and inhale, come back up, crescent lunge. Exhale, hands come down to the inside of the right foot. Walk your right foot out to the outer edge of your mat, and you can lower your left knee down to the mat for this lizard lunge. And here, once you've made it to your lizard, you're welcome to go down onto forearms, or you can bring your hands up onto blocks. Breathe long and slow here. And as you're ready, tuck your left toes under, lift your left knee off of the mat, walk your right foot heeling and toeing back toward the middle of the mat, frame off the right foot with the hands, and then step the right foot back to meet the left. Downward facing dog. Inhale, lift the left heel. Exhale, plant that foot in between the hands. And then inhale, come up, crescent lunge. Find that opposing action that activates both the quadricep and the hamstring muscles of both legs. Breathe length up through the fingertips. Exhale, hands come down to the hips. Step your right foot in about a foot. Square off the hips, lift up through the chest. And then exhale, fold forward. Hands can come down to the ground or to blocks. Inhale, lift up halfway. And then exhale, drape the spine down. Softening. Take an inhale, press the back of the spine back up. Step your right foot back to the back edge of the mat. Take your blocks off to either side. And then bring your hands down to the inside of your left foot. Setting up here again for a lizard lunge, you can lower your right knee down to the mat. And then lower down however you like, or lift up with blocks. And you might bring your hips left and right, experimenting with the sensation in the fronts of the hips and the back of the thigh. Tuck your right toes under. You might heel toe your left foot back toward the middle of the mat first. And then press your left foot back to meet the right. Downward facing dog. One last time here, pedal out the feet. And come to stillness. Inhale, lift your heels. Exhale, bend into your knees, look to the top of the mat, and arrive in your way. Halfway lift. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale, reach all the way up. And exhale, hands come to heart center. We'll take a little balancing tree pose here. So with tree pose, we can just tuck our bodies into the shape, or we can experiment with active work in the back of the leg. So if you would find a sort of point of steadiness, grounding down into both feet, lift your left heel up and off of the mat. From here, lift your left knee and externally rotate your left knee. You might lose your balance like I do. And then use the strength in the hamstring to bring the heel of your left foot as close as you can get it in, right? And that might not be very far. And then you can reach down and grab it and place it to the inner right thigh. We all fall out of balance poses. There's nobody that is perfectly balanced. And some days are better than others. You can bring your hands to heart center or extend them out into a nice wide V, up and overhead. Today is a super wobbly day for me, and that's fine. We're just gonna go with it. From here, you can unhook your left leg from your right, release it down, and shake that out. And set up for the other side. Come up onto the ball mound of your right foot. Lift your right knee, and then using external rotation and maybe tucking that heel in toward your glute actively, and then finally passively grabbing it and placing it inside the thigh. Find your balance. You can bring your hands to the heart center or extend them open into a nice wide V. From here, lengthen tailbone down, press the thigh into the foot back into the thigh. Exhale, hands come down to heart center. Maybe reach that hand down, unhook the foot, hold it there. Release for a moment. Step up to the top of the mat. Inhale, reach the arms up. Exhale, forward fold. Hold here for a nice, juicy forward fold for just a moment. You might like to clasp peace fingers to big toes, tuck hands underneath the feet, toes touching wrist creases, or any other variation of this forward fold that feels nice for you. Take an inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, hands plant, step it back to downward facing dog. And from downward facing dog, we'll lower all the way down to the mat. The sole of your left foot can come to the inner right thigh for Janu Sirsasana. Take an inhale, reach both arms up to the sky. And exhale, fold forward toward your extended leg. Inhale to walk yourself back up. Extend your left leg long. Right sole comes into the inner left thigh. Take an inhale, arms reach up. And exhale, fold forward. Inhale back at the heart space, guide you back up. Open both legs out wide, wide, wide for a nice wide-legged forward fold. From here, take an inhale, reach arms up to the sky, and exhale, fold forward. You might extend your arms long in front of you, or elbows underneath your shoulders. Any amount that you fold forward is fine. Take an inhale and press yourself back up. You can bring your legs to this crisscross position and lengthen up through the crown of the head. If it feels okay for you, you can allow your eyes to fall shut. And soften the breath. Feel and notice the breath in the body. Bring your hand over your heart and your other hand on top of that hand. In gratitude for the practice and for our bodies here today. I want to thank you all so much for practicing with me. I hope you enjoyed this hamstring lengthening yoga sequence. It's a pleasure. Thank you.